Emergency Management and Communications for the City of Chicago. As you all know, today's the second day of the DNC. I'm going to do a quick round of introductions before I get started. Today we are joined by Larry Snelling, the Superintendent of the Chicago Police Department, John Roberson, Chief Operating Officer for the City of Chicago, Gary Gatewood, Deputy Mayor of Community Safety, Jeff Burnside, United States Secret Service, DNC Coordinator, Derek Meyer, Deputy Special Agent in Charge, United States Secret Service, Dan Casey, Managing Deputy Director of Public Safety Technology. And with that, I'll pass it over to the Superintendent. Superintendent.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
First thing I'd like to do is introduce my leadership team here. Could not be more proud of the work that they're doing. To my left here, we have Chief Dwayne DeVries, Chief John Hine, Chief Ursity, Chief Talley, and Chief Navalis. I just cannot say enough about the work that they're doing here. Yesterday, as you saw, there was a breach of the outer perimeter in the area that was within sight and sound of the United Center, the venue where the DNC is being held. It was a brief breach. There were demonstrated tactics applied to remove some of the locks from the outer perimeter fence and the fencing. Our officers arrived on the scene. We were in immediate contact with our federal partners about it. Some of them breached into the fence, the adjacent fence. They attempted to pull that fencing down. We got in there as quickly as we could. Our officers showed great restraint. The leadership team being out there, making sure that the officers are remembering their training and relying on their training to get this done. Our officers at some point were sprayed with OC spray. We had objects thrown at officers, water bottles, water thrown on officers. No major injuries, but our officers did not overreact. We were able to clear that area up really quickly. Shortly thereafter, having a conversation with the Secret Service, that location was then fortified to make sure that that didn't happen again. We had approximately about 3,500 protesters that started out with that. And I'm not going to tie that event and what happened with the breach with the entirety of the protest. Because within that protest, we had people who simply wanted to exercise their First Amendment rights. Those people broke off and started marching when that group of individuals stayed behind and breached the fence. I'm just happy to say that the coordinated work between CPD and federal partners, nothing happened. We took complete control of it. There were 13 arrests made, but not in relation to that particular event. And what I'd like to say again is just I couldn't be more proud of how the Chicago Police Department responded under those circumstances. We put on display the training and the preparation that we've been engaged in for over a year now. That being said, moving forward, we do expect to see more protests, more demonstrated tactics. Again, we're up to the challenge. The city is up to the challenge, and it's not just CPD, it's everyone, OEMC working together in lockstep with Chicago Police Department, our federal partners, our state, local partners, our mutual aid officers who are helping out. And the collaboration has been excellent along our business corridors, making sure that businesses are protected and safe, but mainly our neighborhoods and our communities, making sure that our officers are available to respond to jobs and prevent violent crimes that are happening in our districts. The arrests that were made range from criminal trespass to state-supported land, to resisting and obstructing, all the way to aggravated battery of police officers. So I have said before, we're not going to tolerate vandalism and violence in our city. And we're ready, willing, and able to respond to those things. So we're going to continue to protect the city. Our officers are going to continue to rely on their training. Our leadership team are going to continue to be out there to lead our men and women to make sure that this city is safe. And with that, I'll now turn it over to Deputy Mayor of Community Safety, Gary Gatewood.
Good morning. As the superintendent mentioned, the city is ready. The city has always been ready. This is what we do. We show up for large events and we coordinate. It's not just CPD, OEMC, and our federal partners. Every city agency understands the assignment that we have here. It is to keep our city safe. From any block that you're on to the DNC, it's our responsibility to keep the city safe. As the superintendent also mentioned, we want people to protest and protest peacefully. We welcome that, we invite that, but what we won't have is people who violate that, people who bring violence and people who cause terror. We won't allow that, we've never allowed that, and we won't start today. We're excited about this day of the DNC and all of that comes with it, but also understand that we're here in collaboration and partnership to keep our city safe, to keep our city strong and continue to move forward. With that, simple enough, we'll pass it back over to Superintendent Snelling so we can open it up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
We'll begin questioning here. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, David Struitt, Chicago Sun-Times. Superintendent, the National Lawyers Guild is claiming that two of the protesters from yesterday were hospitalized after being assaulted by police officers. Can you please respond to that? Yeah,
but it's not being assaulted by police officers. Those police officers responded perfectly, and we've got body cam footage to prove it. They were not hospitalized for injuries. As a police department, anytime we take someone into custody, if they're on medication or they need medication, we make sure they get that. So what we did as a police agency was make sure that they got to the hospital so they could be provided the treatment that they needed when it came to their medication.
Good morning, Superintendent.
Good morning.
Julie Bosman with the New York Times. I have a question about the Behind Enemy Lines protest that's planned for tonight.
Yes.
Has CPD coordinated with this group at all? Has there been communication? And secondly, what are you expecting from this protest tonight, given that the group has invoked 1968 on their social media?
Well, what I can tell you is you never know what to expect from a group like that. But what I can tell you is what I expect from our side, what I expect from our Chicago police officers who are going to be responding to that. And regardless to what they're saying, from the CPD aspect of it, we're going to rely on our training. We're going to stay focused on First Amendment protection, but we're also going to make sure that we protect everyone in this city. It's not one side. We're here to make sure that everyone is safe. And again, we don't have to agree with what one side is saying or what the other side is saying, and they don't have to agree with each other. But what we should be doing is respecting that and respecting people's rights to be protected, number one, and to express their thoughts and opinions. It can't be one-sided. So whatever happens, I can guarantee you this. We're ready to respond and respond in the best way possible.
Have you coordinated with the group?
Not at this time, no.
Superintendent Snelling, Rob Hughes here with ABC7. Just to piggyback off of that, the nature of yesterday was that it was planned and permitted. Tonight, you may not be as familiar with the plans of those protesters as you just alluded to. Will you be prepared to respond with the same number of officers and resources devoted to tonight potentially as what we saw yesterday?
So what we have our resources on standby all the time, and we can move resources as needed. And these are plans that we've practiced. We've done this through tabletops. We've looked at situations that rapidly evolve. And how do we respond to those things? Well, we've practiced how we're going to respond, how we're going to move assets around if necessary. So we'll assess the situation as it goes along, and we'll be able to move any type of resources or assets that we need to make sure that we keep that situation under wraps. We are prepared.
Superintendent Martin Costi, NPR. Can you break down, you said 13 arrests, but not all of them are from the incident at the fence. How many were at the fence, and where were the others?
You know what? I'm sure we can get that information to you. I don't want to give you any bad information right now, but I know it was at least maybe 10 arrests from that location. But we'll get you the numbers. We'll get you the information.
Nick Blumberg, WTTW. The Lawyers Guild also said that 2 of the protesters who were arrested on Sunday were, held for hours without getting a call and weren't allowed to make a private call in violation of CPD policies and the law. Can you respond to that, please?
Well, what I can tell you is we have things set up. I'm not familiar with that particular case that you're talking about, but we can also get you information on that. We'll follow up with you.
Jason Navarrete, NBC Chicago. We've seen more fencing going up there along the perimeter of where the protests happened yesterday. Obviously, I think you said it was 3,500 protesters that were there. Will the number of protests going forward and perhaps even more attempted breaches lead to even more structures going up, being erected to protect the perimeter?
Well, what I can do is have someone from the Secret Service come up and just talk about that for a second.
Thank you, Superintendent Stelling. My name is Jeff Burnside. I'm the Secret Service Coordinator for the 2024 DNC. So this is a national special security event, which means that we take a multi-layered approach to all of our security measures, and we're constantly working with our state, local, and federal partners to evaluate, make improvements, make adjustments, and that's all we're doing. Our plan was in place. Our plan worked. We're taking some lessons learned and making the necessary adjustments. Thank you.
Good morning, Superintendent. Carmen Vargas with Univision. Can you explain in detail what are the measures that you are taking to prevent protesters from getting out of control like yesterday? And if you are planning to change your strategy from tonight on?
No, there's no need to change our strategies. Listen, we go the direction that we see a protest going. If everybody is exercising their First Amendment rights, it's peaceful, no one is violating the law, there's nothing to change. What we saw yesterday was not a peaceful protest at that location where the fence was breached. It started out peacefully, and those people who were engaging in First Amendment activity peacefully left the park. They left that location. The people who decided that they wanted to commit crimes and vandalism stayed behind. We responded to that event with our officers who were properly trained to deal with the situation. And as a result of it, there was no serious breach that could have been worse had we not been prepared for that. So what we've been training for worked. It worked, and because, listen, we can't account for every situation that could happen, but if we respond to it and we put an end to it before it turns bad, then we've done our jobs. So do we need to change anything? Absolutely not. Our officers responded quickly. They were there in minutes, and they were effective. Just the effectiveness of how our officers responded is what put an end to that situation as quickly as it started. So do we need to change anything? No. Are we looking at things that we can do better? Always.
Buenos días, Superintendent. Jorge de Santiago with Telemundo Chicago. This is a question for your Spanish-speaking officer, Novales. Oficial, ¿podría decirnos de los arrestos y cómo se están preparando para esta noche donde sabemos que van a haber manifestaciones?
Sí, sabemos que tuvimos 13 arrestos en el día de ayer. No todos fueron en la área del incidente. Moviéndonos para adelante. Vamos a continuar a hacer las cosas en la misma manera. Entrenamos, planeamos y se vio ayer. Cuando pasó ese incidente, respondimos en la manera que fuimos entrenados y vamos a continuar a hacerlo así. Muchas gracias.
Good morning, Superintendent.
Good morning.
Sam from the Tribune.
How are you, Sam?
Very well, thank you. Yesterday in the afternoon, between approximately noon and 6:30, there were 3 fatal shootings citywide. I'm just curious what kind of conversations you and Chief Hine are having with your 22 district commanders about deploying resources where violence is popping up during this historically violent part of the year here in Chicago.
So we have our executive management meetings. As you know, Chief Hine had his hands tied up just a little bit with a small thing yesterday. But I am in constant contact with our area deputy chiefs and our district commanders. And we're having daily conversations about how we're deploying resources, how we're responding to jobs in the area, and everything that we can do to keep down crime. So they're being strategic on how they're deploying their resources within their districts now.
Good morning, Superintendent Tarso Veloso with Bloomberg.
How are you?
Sir, you were seen along with your officers yesterday at the protest. I'm just curious to know, you can talk a little bit about why you attended versus directing the coverage from a remote location.
Listen, we ask a lot of our officers. And I can show you some videos of some of the things and the nastiness that they have to endure out there. And we're asking them to be out there on their days off. We're asking them to work extended hours. The least I can do and the least the leadership team can do is be out there with them and show them that we're standing there with them and we're supporting our officers. We're supporting the department. The other thing is, if we want them to respond to the training, we need to be out there to make sure that it's happening. And we have to be out there to reinforce the message. We have to be out there in support of them, explaining to them how this is going to be effective. We have a very young department, and a lot of times these officers just need leadership. They need some guidance, right? They're great human beings, and we cannot forget about the human element of these officers out there and the things that they're facing, the things that they're hearing, seeing on a daily basis from a lot of the protest groups. There's a lot of hate-filled rhetoric that's being thrown at them, and the physical attacks. So it's a better message if I'm out there with these officers and standing side by side and letting them know that we're there in support of them. So the one thing that has to be understood, my leadership style is these officers do not work for me. I work for them. My job is to make sure that everyone within this department has what they need to succeed. Now, am I steering the ship? Absolutely. But if we're not taking care of our team, then we're failing. And that's why you saw such a great response, because it was a top-down leadership effort to make sure that our officers are responding the way they need to.
Good morning, Mac Lederman with Block Club Chicago. We were over at Park 578, which I think needs a new name at this point because it's too hard to say. But can you describe, it obviously looks a little different than it did yesterday, so can you describe exactly the additions that were made to the security fence where the breach occurred?
You know what, I can have the Secret Service talk a little bit about that.
So what I can tell you is that the Secret Service, working with our partners in the Chicago Police Department and other state, local, and federal partners, has looked at that area. We've made repairs to the existing fence, and then we've made augmentations in areas that we felt were necessary. It's just an adjustment as these national special security events happen that we make routinely. Well, I don't want to get into our specific means and methods for operational security reasons.
Next question. Good morning, Leah Skeen with AP. I was wondering if you could clarify what happened with the buses of delegates being delayed yesterday and whether that was because of protest and police activity.
Derek, you want to? Or, sorry.
So there were some very unfortunate delays with delegate buses. entering the DNC. There was a cascading effect. There was a bus accident, very minor accident, followed by a mechanical failure that closed one of our entrances, and that compounded traffic delays. We are working to make adjustments to our routes. We are working to make adjustments on our timing for that. Thank you. No.
Oh, thank you. And just a quick question for Secret Service first. Megan Hickey, CBS News, Chicago. Sorry, a quick question for Secret Service, if that's okay. Having to do with the complaints about very long lines getting into the United Center. What are you hoping to change today to get people in more quickly?
So we're working with our partners at the DNCC to make sure that the resources that are necessary to reduce those lines. So there's a kind of a two-layered approach to the access control. The Secret Service is responsible for screening the individuals, but the DNCC is responsible for making sure that those are the people that are admitted. So they're bringing in some additional resources, and so are we. Again, it's a 4-day national special security event, and so on day one, we understand that we're going to have to make some adjustments, and we're prepared to do that.
And if you don't mind, just a quick question for Superintendent Snelling as well. We did speak with 2 protesters, or I guess arrestees, who said they weren't involved in the fence breach. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Do you have body camera video of every arrest, and what role does that type of evidence play?
Yes, we do. And sometimes being in the wrong place at the wrong time is indicative of the choices that you make to engage in criminal activity.
Good morning. Reese Tebow with the Washington Post. I'm just looking for some more clarification on the arrests. I heard reports from the Lawyers Guild that there were arrests made overnight, and then I understand the arrests made at the breach incident. So could you comment on the overnight arrests and just tell us a little more about what?
I'd have to get information to you about that because I don't have the information. I need to know specifically what it is, but we'll get some information to you on that. Okay.
Good morning. Ben Aberle with NBC Chicago. Superintendent, can you respond to the characterization from the National Lawyers Guild that police were aggressive and at times violent with protesters? And then to that end, would you consider releasing some of the body camera footage that you've mentioned?
So what I can tell you is this. It's not just the body camera footage that we have. We have other footage, and we will be getting that information out as soon as possible. But right now, we have people who have been placed under arrest. So we want to get through that portion of it first, and anything that we need for transparency, we will make sure that we get that information out.
And your assertion about police being violent?
Well, listen, this is something that we've been hearing as a police department for quite some time. And even with the training, and I can tell you this right now, the officers could have used more force in situations yesterday than they actually did. And those officers showed great restraint. So we're always going to have opposition to our response. There are people out there who don't believe we should even exist. So, of course, we're going to have those who are going to say that we were too aggressive. But what I will say is our officers responded to the training, and I just could not be more proud of how they responded.
Next question right here.
Superintendent Chip Mitchell with WBEZ. You mentioned OC spray that it was used. Could you describe how many officers used the spray? Who were the targets? What prompted it? Were the targets of the spray actively resisting?
The officers were the targets. Those officers did not. No one discharged OC spray from CPD.
Protesters used it.
Protesters used it against our officers.
And that was at the breach site?
That was at the breach site, yes.
Hi, Roseanne Tejas, Fox 32. A couple of quick questions. One, do you know anything more about the protesters who were arrested that you described as agitators and separate from the group? Are these people who are known to Chicago police already?
Right now, I don't have that information. But what I can tell you is this. You know, you're always going to have people within a group that large who have their own personal agendas. And we can't say that we know all of them. We get people who travel here from out of state to engage in their own personal activity. And I'm sure we saw some of that yesterday. So right now, I don't know if these people are known to us, but as we work through this process, we can get information out.
And finally, are there other measures aside from focusing on the fencing and fortifying the fencing? Any other security measures that will be different going forward for the next protests?
Well, listen, I think fortifying the fencing right now was one of the most important things that we can do, because we recognize a level of demonstrator tactics within the crowd that led to the breaching of the fencing. So we learned something from that. And what we learned from that is what we'll be using to move forward to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So again, as I've said before, as a police department, we have to be fluid. We have to be flexible and ready to change as the situation changes.
Last question.
Good morning, Emma Barnett with NBC News. Thank you for taking our questions. I just want to know if you're able to share the names of the people who were arrested as well as where they're from. And also, can you describe any injuries that officers experienced yesterday?
So I'm not going to share any names of any of the arrestees at this time. But what I will say is minimal injuries to our officers, being sprayed with OC spray, it doesn't necessarily cause any serious damage unless it's some type of reaction to the chemical or the pepper spray. The best thing about the response here is that there were no major injuries with anybody, the arrestees or the officers. So again, I just can't say enough about how the officers responded.
Thank you.
Well, hold on. I just want to make one point, because this is important. So yesterday during the breach, and this is an ask I have of the media and everyone here, when we start to move a crowd, or there's a breach like that, or there are crimes being committed, we're asking the media if you could, because we know we want you to be able to do your job. We appreciate you're out there recording, but if you could just listen to us at times where we need you to move, it would be helpful, because it's going to keep you safe, and it doesn't allow anyone who's utilizing demonstrator tactics to use you or to use you as a shield. So we just need to make sure that when we're giving you orders to just step back and to stand out of the way, it's just for the safety of everyone out there. We want you to go out and do your jobs, and we want to work with you on that. But we want to make sure that you don't get caught up in any type of violence, physical violence, and we don't want to see anyone get hurt. So please, if we can do that, I really appreciate it. Also, I'd like to thank COO John Robertson. He's been working on this since the beginning. He's a great partner. And Deputy Mayor Garen Gatewood of Public Safety, just a great job helping us out, in constant communication with us from the mayor's office, and can't say enough about Executive Director Tirado and the work that he's doing in coordination across the city with everyone. Just all of our partners, our federal partners who are standing here, just great coordination across the board. I expect these next 3 days to be successful. I consider yesterday a success, given how things could turn bad in an instant. And I am confident that this city will come out successful over these next 3 days. So thank you, and thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration as the media to help us out when we're out there. So thank you.